Well, with 10 minutes to go before the end of the world, this is Radio KAOS. I don't like fish, but as you often tune in for, I wanted to say, come on, shit. Yes, I was referring to Radio KAOS, one of Roger Waters' productions of a Welsh voice choir and Billy and the End of the World. Because this is 1988, 1989. The film, timing there is everything, is Miracle Mile. For those who, I don't understand why you do it, man, is, let me just turn that down because it's sort of talking over my noise there. That's our lead, who's going to be our hero of the world. Miracle Mile. It's a very simple story of boy meets girl, boy agrees to a date with girl in the middle of the night in a diner. In the meantime, boy falls asleep, alarm doesn't go off, wakes up at 4 in the morning. Did I mention this is 1989? So still goes to the diner, only to pick up a phone call saying that you've got about an hour before the missile strike hits. What then proceeds to occur is we watch this young man trying to find the love of his life after a one date and escape LA before the missiles hit, loosely based in real time. Along the way, there's a certain wryness and melancholy as we meet the characters that comprise a nightlife in the twilight hours. From vagabonds, petty thieves to insomniacs until we reach the morning chaos of 6 a.m. Does true love last like a diamond or melt in the fusion of nuclear holocaust? That's basically the entirety of the film. The film's quite brief. Where I was when I saw this, I have no real memory of seeing the film. I knew the premise because the premise is so simple, but I only really remembered a few key moments. One of which is the gym. He finds a helicopter pilot. There's a scene, ultimately, in order to get off of LA, he knows there's a helicopter that's going to be on top of a building. He needs a pilot to be able to get that helicopter off of that building and towards the airport. Finds a helicopter pilot. A helicopter pilot. Well, if you want me to fly your plane, you have to give me time to find someone. He says, that's no deal. Helicopter pilot says, well, just shoot me now. And he bottles it. And the person he needs to get is around the corner. Ah ho. It's a great film. It's a great film. I was 13 when I saw it, and I think, well, I mentioned Radio KAOS. While nuclear fear and the 2 minute warning had kind of subsided, we are, in terms of what I was, still very much creatively, culturally in the Where the Wind Blows sort of era. A friend of mine was in one of those Tears for Fears videos at the time at school about the 3 minute warning. It lingered into conversations about keeping we did in our house. Fears of the Iraqi supergun. It was a weird moment. And watching this film back, I also remember that where I was then now was not really a good space for a 13-year-old. I was kind of looking forward to the bomb. It wasn't about anger, even, which I think makes it worse. I think the idea of some peace was what was on my mind at the time. Really not a place that a teenager should be in. Watching the film now, um, it's excellent. I'm now that much more having had that nightlife, that post gig life from comedy, the night buses, the post clubs, they're not wanting to go home, just sort of chasing a night away, being in those 5 a.m. diners with the assortment of people you see there. My mum herself was working nights most of the time, so often I would meet her on the bus on the way home, and we did see all of it. It's not just about the cleaners, the fringe dwellers, the stuff that I really don't think necessarily happens now. It's so 80s. The fact is, that diner was the diner that's open. There's the scene, the opening sort of real premise where actual story kicks in, the 10 minutes that they spend in that diner with the randos in it, I could watch that for an hour. I would have totally watched an hour film where they got 2 hours to decide the bomb's going to be in 2 hours and a 1 hour play. The style with which that this is done and the choices of characters and their choices with this knowledge, whether they be old couple who just want to reunite and go, you know what, it's our time, young people who just want to save their siblings or their loved ones, cops who are just trying to enforce it. Yeah. And because of its tautness, helps against the melancholy of it. There are issues, I think. Julie is pretty much just an object throughout the vast majority of it. She's just either someone to be saved. You can argue there's some sort of leeway because, you know, he stood her up, so she took some Valium. That's why she can be a bit daisy when they meet up. But she doesn't really have much agency in and of herself. I would say that meeting all those characters as the gyms open, you do see the stratas of society, you see the breadth of society. Can I just say, Denise Crosby is the most recognizable to me as Linda, the sort of corporate exec. But you will recognize everyone in this. When I say everyone is a character actor, everyone is a supporting actor in something or other that you've seen before. It does give it a certain weight. No line is just passed out. The only moment I would say seems to exist for the sponsorship, or rather for the trailer, is a gas station, which even then is being attended to by Edward Bunker, also known as, I believe, Mr. Blue in the Reservoir Dog films, and a renowned crime writer in and of his own self. The explosion of the gas station, I feel, only exists because you need an explosion to put in the trailer. It's totally nonsensical that a police officer covered in gasoline would actually use their gun or try to use their gun. Having said that, though, it's rather a relatively minor quibble. Watching it and seeing that life and thinking about those after hours, the times I've sat in a bar, watched a milk float go by, and the sort of paranoia that that gave me. Um, Even recently, I missed the night tube, so I had a bus to get the bus to get the bus. And this is the first time in probably since before the pandemic I'd been in that situation. And you know what? Oh God, no. Oh God, no. Because these bars don't exist anymore. These diners of almost like sanctuary don't seem to exist anymore. The complete need to just scroll yourself as an individual means you don't necessarily deal with the people around you. That unspoken camaraderie of the 80s, 90s, and even the noughties when I was doing this. So even for me, who would have been far too young for it then and far too old for it now, it did definitely hit a sweet spot for fans of the likes of Suburbia. The guys just talking shit outside a gas station at 2 a.m. The people who don't necessarily want to be there, but circumstances dictate. And frankly, the invisibles. This is 1989. People didn't want to talk to drag acts. People didn't want to talk to construction guys. People didn't want to talk to the garbage man. People certainly didn't want to talk to the corporate lawyer guys who are up at 5 a.m. because breakfast is for wimps. These were all traits. Are they antisocial or are they necessity for their lives? They're invisible to us, yet very visible in this film in some form or other. The ending is quite tragic, and yes, the crux of the relationship is rather sophomoric. Kind of redeemed by him not being just the quirky, hey guys, he's not quirky, he's odd, chatting up people in museums. Charlie Bond is banned from comments. And the sort of cliche idea that there will become diamonds at the end is so downbeat. But I gotta say, in a time where everything's kind of fraught, I think I recently said that we seem to be getting into a almost collective national PTSD. Recently to a friend of mine, a film that dials it back, peels it back, and looks at regardless of all of our divisions, what do you do when the bomb's going to come down on you? It's worth seeing, it's worth meditating on, not in the literal sense, but I'd say emotionally, and just to give yourself some solace in these darker times. So, with that, I do totally say do check out Miracle Mile. Easiest way to say it is Cloverfield with people you want to see survive, as opposed to those fucks. What more do you need to know?